Hey, listen to me. I have a question and I got an answer. The question is, why is it that many people don't grow the way they want to grow and the way they can grow spiritually? That's the question. In this video, I'm going to give you the answer. If you're ready to take your spiritual life to the next level, I want you to stay tapped in. I'm getting ready to show you how. Listen, I often say this, that your spiritual life is not the only important part of your life, but it is the most important part of your life because it affects every other area that's important. When you become better spiritually, it helps you emotionally. When you become better spiritually, it helps you relationally. When you become better spiritually, it helps you professionally. When you become better spiritually, it helps you financially. There's no area of your life that is not directly or indirectly impacted by spiritual growth. It is the most important kind of growth because spiritual growth contributes the most to your quality of life. I don't know if you know this, but happiness or joy, that's an inside job. So your relationships externally may contribute to your happiness, but they don't determine your happiness. It's an inside job. Your profession may contribute to your happiness. It doesn't determine it. That's an inside job. Your finances contribute, but they don't determine your happiness. It's an inside job. Spiritual. So if there is an area that we want to be intentional and aggressive and assertive in growing in, it's the spiritual area. And so the question becomes, how do I grow, not just incrementally, but exponentially in that area? And why is it that so many people don't experience the kind of growth they can experience and they want to experience? The answer is really in two words. I'm going to give them to you right now. The answer is simply this. They don't understand, here are the two words, spiritual temperaments. What do I mean by that? A spiritual temperament is really your orientation toward, now let me be very clear. When I say spiritual temperaments, a lot of people confuse it with personality types. That's not what I'm referring to here, and I'm going to show you the difference in just a second here, right? But when I'm talking about spiritual temperaments, I'm referring toward your orientation toward the specific practicing of certain spiritual disciplines in a way that allows those disciplines to serve you on the highest and best level. What do I mean by that? I mean that there are spiritual exercises or disciplines in the Bible that are there to help you and I grow. Prayer is a spiritual discipline or spiritual exercise. The study of scripture, right? Fasting, solitude, worship, serving, silence. These are all spiritual disciplines, exercises that help us grow spiritually. So if I'm going to grow, I have to do all of these things. They are what Dallas Willard calls means of grace. See, watch this. We get to choose if we grow. God chooses the ways we grow. So when I say something is a means of grace, it is what God has chosen to use to grow us. And what God says is, I'm going to use these spiritual exercises, prayer, the study of scripture, fasting, service, worship, solitude, biblical meditation. I'm going to use these disciplines as exercises to strengthen you spiritually. Now, here's the problem. Let's be honest now. Here's the problem. Many people aren't growing the way they could because they have not been trained on what the exercises actually are. Many people, I want you to catch this, only see prayer as a response to crisis, not an avenue for intimacy. Prayer is not just something I use to respond to trouble. Prayer is something I use to create intimacy with God. So this means when prayer is used in this way, I don't just do talking, I do listening. Listen, when you get better spiritually, everything get better. Spiritual life is not the only important part of your life. It is the most important part of your life because it affects every other part that's important. But you don't get stronger spiritually accidentally. It takes intentionality. You need to get fed, and you got to learn how to understand, how to interpret, how to apply, and how to explain the Bible. The Bible's the blueprint to your best life. And I'm going to tell you, Sunday's not enough to give you the tools that you need to get better with the Bible. I want you to join me in my community called Bible U, where I help you take your understanding, your application, and your explanation of the Bible to another level. When it comes to the study of Scripture, many people they're trying to study Scripture. Many times they are not taught where to start. So they're trying to study Scripture, and they're opening it up, they're reading Leviticus. They're like, I'm confused. Then they're reading Numbers, and such begat such and such, and such begat such and such. Or many people are engaging in, which I am all for, Bible reading plans. It's like, I read the whole Bible in 1 year. The question is not how much of the Bible you read, is how much of the Bible got in you. Because many of us, when it comes to reading Scripture, we've been taught like quantity, not quality. And so there are these finishing goals that people say, I'm going to read the whole Bible in a year. I'm going to read a chapter an entire day. And there is something important about acquiring and understanding of Scripture. I get that. Yet at the same time, when you're reading to grow, you don't read to finish, you read to feed. Literally, in my devotional time today, I'm in the book of Colossians. In my devotional time today, I read one verse. I read Colossians 3:17. Boom, I got stuck there. Because it's not quantity, it's quality. It's not how much of the Bible I'm reading, it's how much of the Bible is reading me. What does that mean? I read Colossians, it read me. I didn't just read it, it read me. Like I'm reading, and I'm like, I think I quoted wrong, but I might have told you 17 and 18, but it might even be 19. But it's one where the Bible talks about, it tells the wives to submit to the husbands, but then it tells the husbands not just to love the wives, but how to love the wives. And it talks about not being harsh to them. And some people, when they think harsh, they think disrespectful, they think abusive. What's harsh? It's what she say harsh. Yeah. Harsh is contextual. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I can grab my friend by the arm and not be harsh. I mean, I wouldn't grab my wife, but I can grab my friend by the arm and not be harsh. But if I grab a 3-year-old by the arm, that might be hard. That might hurt him. So I didn't just read the Scripture, it read me. So here's the problem. Here's the issue. We've been taught to do or told to do these spiritual disciplines, not taught how to do them in a way that cultivates intimacy. And the way you do that is it's got to be consistent with your spiritual temperament. So this means everybody has to pray, but your spiritual temperament determines the way you approach prayer. So there are 9 types of spiritual temperaments that are called sacred pathways. I won't go through all of them. But I will share just a few because I think they're important. Like one's called a naturalist. So this means you don't worship nature, but it means that nature gives you a greater revelation of God. You connect with God better in nature. So whereas someone has to go into their proverbial, metaphorical, or maybe even literal prayer closet to pray, you may have to take a walk in the park to pray. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It means that you have a certain temperament, orientation that connects with God better in worship. I hope that makes sense. So you got someone like a naturalist, and you've got someone like a sensate. So the naturalist says, let me be outdoors. The sensate says, let me experience. I want encounters and experiences in the presence of God. I want to feel the Shekinah, the weightiness of his presence. I don't want to just know omnipresence. I want manifest presence. And I want to feel that and sense that as much as I possibly can. Then there's like the contemplative, who's like, just let me think. I need to think and I need to reflect. I don't do good with noise. So you got some people that pray and they got music in the background. Then you got other people who are like, I need to pray and I need it quiet. Some people pray to instrumental music. See, the key is discerning your temperament and then developing a plan to practice the disciplines. You have to practice the disciplines, but the way you practice them is based on your spiritual temperament. And honestly, that's the only way you're going to be consistent. Some people aren't consistent, not because they lack discipline. They think it's discipline. They lack discernment. They don't know what their spiritual temperament is. They haven't discerned it. So they can't be consistent because they're trying to do it in a way that's not aligned with the way God wired them. If you can figure this out, it changes the game for you. And if you're looking for more teaching on this, there's a series I did. It's right here on YouTube. It's called It's Up. And in this series, I unpack and I explore these spiritual temperaments and what adjustments you can make to discover, to develop, and deploy yours. All right, let's grow to the next level.
For your spiritual temperament, can it depend on your mood?
I wouldn't say, I don't know if I would say it depends on the mood, because what I would say is I think it could depend on the day. You know, not always, because I think we don't have and I say a temperament, but we have these range of temperaments. And I think depending on the season I'm in, depending on what's happening in my life, depending on where I am emotionally, so maybe that is mood. All of that determines which of these I might feel like leaning to in a certain day. So it might be a time where it's like, one day I'm leaning in one direction, and literally the next day I'm leaning in another direction. And I think what's key is having the freedom, giving yourself the freedom and the grace to say, you know what, I got to go outside and do it today. I was in the closet yesterday, and maybe I'm in the closet most days, but today I need to take a walk. Why? Because you've got a range of temperaments, and some are going to be higher than others, but you've got a range of them that you can put to work and use depending on the season you're in. I think that's when it becomes religion. I really do. I think that's when it becomes religion, when we feel when we conform to, it's like, I don't think it's religion to say, I'm going to pray today. You know, like, yeah, I'm not praying based on my feelings, but I think you slide into like religion and legalism, and you slide outside a relationship when it's like the routine. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like going on a date just to say we had date night. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it really didn't do anything for the relationship. We just checked a box. You know what I'm saying? It's like we go to the same restaurant every time. So I feel like, that's why I say, I think religious deliverance is one of the greatest forms of deliverance you could ever receive. Like being delivered from these constraints and shackles that we actually put on ourselves. Trying to do the right thing, but sometimes just the wrong way.